Alright guys, welcome to yet another video from the Cloud Surfer channel. I am Henrik and today I thought I would show you my awesome green screen skills. Not just kidding, but it's nice to have something different than just me sitting in a couch or something like that. So today in this video I thought I would talk a little bit about the reasons why I think you should try X-Plane 11 in VR. And let me start with number one, right? VR puts you actually in the cockpit, or as close to as you can come without actually going to real deal simulator, right? Or in the actual cockpit and sitting there. You will actually need to use your hands to reach out to use each individual button or flick a switch or turn a knob, and you'll need to reach where those buttons are in the aircraft. You don't have to sit with the keyboard and key bindings and do all that stuff, or have a ton of hotkeys. You are actually using the aircraft and using the cockpit as it was designed and was intended, and that's an awesome experience. And no 2D screen can really replicate that. So just that reason alone for me is enough to fly in VR. The next thing is that the native VR in X-Plane 11 is designed and works like a charm. It's just brilliant. The hand controller, especially if you use the Oculus Rift, it just feels so natural, and after just a very short while it feels like a natural extension of your fingers and of your hand. And I'm quite sure that in the future you'll get the Oculus haptic gloves, and you can really get nitty-gritty with turning knobs and what have you, not using your fingers. I do think I have a few hotkeys on my yoke for with the radio and for trimming. I have tried to replicate it as well as I can on the Cytic yoke. Of course I do not have a bone yoke, I wish I did, but I try to replicate where they are located as much as possible. But other than that, and having a mouse of course that I use for things like a better pushback, and you do use the VR mouse for one knob that is a bit fiddly in the Cibo mod. But other than that, you can pretty much go about with just one hand and one controller, and then maybe if you have a physical yoke and some pedals, then you're good to go in VR, and it's an awesome experience and can't really be described. You have to try it. But that's also why I made this video, to try and encourage you. And I know people have some reservations about VR. I can totally understand that. I have them myself. It's for most people a pretty decent price on VR headsets, and you don't just go out and buy one to try it. If you have the possibility, if you have a friend or something, of course you can try and borrow it and try it. But most people don't have that, and they have this eeriness. This is worth $500, and what if it doesn't work, and what if this and that. So still, just the ability to be able to sit in the aircraft, sit in the cockpit, look around. Everything is located where it should be. The distance to that knob over there is as it should be in the real aircraft. Being able to bend forward and look for the runway when you're in a turn and orient, all of that, you get that in VR, and you can't really replicate that on a 2D screen. You can have your viewpoints on your keyboard, but it's not really the same. It's much more immersive. Also, you get real caught up in the environment, in the aircraft that you're in. Once you get this headset on, everything around you, all the way out to the edge of your eyes, is just aircraft, and you have the headset on. You get fully immersed. You don't get distracted by something on the TV or looking out the window or what have you not. You're fully into that moment. Now that can be a nuisance if somebody comes up to you and taps you on the shoulder, because at times you can get really lost in the experience. And I've actually had moments where I'm reaching for a cup of coffee that's in the cockpit, if you know the Cibo mod, or trying to lean on a seat that's not there, and stuff like that. And you do that because your brain gets fully immersed and forgets about the artificial environment that VR is after a while. Another thing that's awesome about our brains is that it tricks you. Your brain has two sensory inputs for motion, and that's your eyes and that's in your ears, okay? So the one in your ear you can't really do much about, but your eyes, your brain will get tricked. So you do actually get that feeling of motion when the aircraft turns, and does maneuvers. And that's quite cool. It feels uncomfortable, but it feels quite startles you as well if you're not used to flying. It will startle you in the real aircraft when you do maneuvers. And it's the same thing in VR. You feel it in your gut. Just, I'm turning now. And you really feel it if you try a small GA aircraft and do a sharp turn. You don't feel it that much, but you do sense it when you're flying larger jets. Now the funny thing is that after maybe an hour, 2 or 3 hours in VR, and you take off the headset and you move on with your day and do other stuff, you get that feeling like you have been on a boat on a long flight. You have that same feeling that you're a bit unbalanced, and that's quite normal. That's because you have been on a long flight, or at least your brain thinks so, so it's trying to readjust you. So that's quite cool. Now the big reservation that people have is nausea and motion sickness, and it's understandable because VR can give you motion sickness quite easily if you're not careful. But mind you, that has mostly to do with action games like DCS World or War Thunder or something else where you're moving about and doing loop-de-loops and barrel rolls. And obviously, if you're serious about your flight sim, you are doing barrel rolls all day in the 737 or a general aircraft. You're trying to fly as realistically as possible, and if you do that, you won't really get motion sickness. At least I didn't. I was surprised that I didn't get. But I heard from many others that no, it has not been a problem as long as you fly it properly. And you can actually even train your mind or your brain to withstand motion sickness from VR. I have come to a point where I can fly in War Thunder all day with no issues, do sharp maneuvers and turns and everything, no problems at all. But it did take me a couple of days to get aligned. You need to do like 15 minutes, then off, then a little more, and at the end you get used to it. So it's just a training thing. And at least for X-Plane 11 and serious flight simming, I don't think it will be an issue at all unless you're very susceptible to motion sickness. Then you might just be a bit careful there. But I think that most people will be just fine and will have no issues at all. Mind you, that motion sickness in VR are mostly related to action games and movement standing games, or roller coaster games, or serious combat maneuvering games, not X-Plane 11 where you're cruising along for an hour. So you'll be just fine. And actually, I find that this sensation is a gift because it gives you the free motion. You don't have to have a platform underneath you. So that's quite cool. There are plenty of good guides online. There are loads of videos on YouTube. There are loads of communities on the Facebook groups and so on, so you don't have to be afraid of not getting good support for VR and X-Plane. There are plenty of good groups. Sweewire, I think it's called, is a YouTuber, has made some few good videos about the setup and how to save a few resources on your computer so you can get even more FPS. So no need to fear that you're all alone with your VR headset. If you should have an issue, just get to the keyboard and you'll get the help you need within a couple of hours, I think. The last thing is people are asking about how does it look compared to 2D. Well, it's not as good as 2D. You will not be getting photoreal imagery like people posting on the forums, the pictures that look almost real. You will not get that, but you will get pretty darn close, I think. There are some issues. It's a bit grainy with the new Oculus Rift S. Things have improved a lot, but things are getting much better, and I think it looks pretty darn good. And mind you, also your mind is very good at filling in the blanks, and when flying along at above 10,000 feet, I don't really notice that there are a few houses missing in the scenery because I have put my world objects at medium, so that's not really an issue for me. And I do get pretty good screenshots actually if I record the VR experience and pick out a frame. I can get it pretty good. So you'll not get photoreal scenery, but then I have also I was thinking about this doing this video during today, and actually when I was flying 2D, I was just as upset and hunting for that perfect balance as I am in VR, and I found out that it doesn't really matter. Potato, you're still not really there, even though you're in 2D. You just want to get more and more and more, and that's just natural. Now I'm at a state where I'm just happy as it is. I spent a minimal amount of time trying to tweak things. I'd rather be flying than sitting around for a whole day trying to get that perfect setting. As long as it's stable and not too jaggedy and it's fluent. I'm happy and I can move around in my cockpit. That's what I'm most interested in, and I get pretty decent views outside day and night, and I'm happy with that. And some of the limitations that I do have is the same in 2D, like the night light rendering not going all the way out into the distance, or the clouds being in a circle and stuff like that. It's the same in 2D, so I don't really think I've lost that much, and what I have lost is definitely worth it compared to sitting on your keyboard, but actually sitting in the aircraft. So with those words, as a lot of people also have mentioned online on the forums and so on, once you have tried VR, there's a very slim chance that you will ever go back to 2D. So if you have the money and if you have a rig that can do it, then definitely grab yourself a VR headset and give it a go. That's my recommendation. But hey, as long as we're having fun, that's the most important thing. So with those words, please do like, subscribe and share, and I hope to see you in the next video.